Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. A special NIA court acquits all 7 accused in Maharashtra's Malegaon blast case. Families of all 6 victims to get 2 lakh rupees as compensation. India reacts on Trump's statement on bilateral trade, says the government will take all steps necessary to secure national interest, attaches the utmost importance to protecting the welfare of the farmers, entrepreneurs and MSMEs. Donald Trump also hits Brazil and South Korea with high tariffs ahead of the August 1st deadline, puts 50% tariffs on Brazil and 15% on South Korea. Canada intends to recognize Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly this September, says Prime Minister Mark Carney. Ottawa's support for Palestinian statehood makes a trade deal with them very hard, warns Donald Trump. And in cricket, Ben Stokes ruled out of the 5th test against India at the Oval. England make 4 changes in their playing 11 for the series decider starting today. All right, let's begin with news just coming in. After nearly 17 years, a special National Investigation Agency court in Mumbai on Thursday acquitted 7 accused in the 2008 Malegaon blast case. All accused were out on bail. The explosion on the night of September 29, 2008 near Bhiku Chowk in Malegaon killed 6 people and left more than 100 injured. A low-intensity bomb fitted to a motorcycle went off near a busy intersection, triggering panic and chaos in the communally sensitive town. The court also announced a compensation of 2 lakh rupees to each deceased victim and 50,000 rupees to the injured. So this verdict coming after a gap of nearly 17 years, a special National Investigation Agency NIA court acquitting all the 7 accused in the 2008 Malegaon blast case. So pronouncing its verdict today, the special NIA court said that the prosecution successfully proved that the blast did take place, but the National Investigation Agency failed to establish that the bomb was fitted in the motorcycle. So the 7 accused were eventually put on trial, and after 17 years, they have been acquitted. These include Sadhvi Pragya Singh Thakur, former BJP MP from Bhopal, Lieutenant Colonel Prasad Shrikant Purohit, the then serving officer in the military intelligence, Major retired Ramesh Upadhyay, Ajay Rahirkar, Sudhakar Dwivedi, Sameer Kulkarni. So, after 17 years, we have the verdict in the Malegaon blast case. Let's again tell you what happened on the ill-fated day in 2008. The explosion on the night of September 29, 2008 near Bhiku Chowk in Malegaon killed 6 people and left more than 100 injured. A low-intensity bomb fitted to a motorcycle went off near a busy intersection, triggering panic and chaos in the communally sensitive town. So the accused face charges under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and various sections of the IPC, including conspiracy, murder, attempt to murder, promoting enmity, and voluntarily causing hurt. And we have with us our Mumbai correspondent, Yogesh Sheetal, on the phone line. Yogesh, what details are emerging out of this verdict?
Tanvi, see, this is the operational part of judgment basically that has been delivered today, which was kept reserved in March 2025. And now all the accused, 6 accused were in this case, so all have been acquitted in this case. Now the final, the descriptive part of judgment is still awaited. Once it comes out, then the main things like what are the arguments that the court took cognizance, and also what are the key witnesses, because we have seen many witnesses turn hostile also during the trial. So it also is very important to see how many witnesses that the court took cognizance, and what are the important, as far as the important legal arguments are concerned from both the sides, from the prosecution as well as from the defense part. So that is also to be seen. Interestingly, we have seen in this case there were three agencies. Initially, we have seen how Nasik police registered an FIR. Later on, the matter was transferred, the case was transferred to the ATS, and then in 2011 to the NIA. And how there were contradictions also emerged in both investigations from the NIA and from the ATS also. Coming to all the accused, including Pragya Singh Thakur, Colonel Purohit, Ramesh Upadhyay, Sameer Kulkarni, Ajay Rahilwar, Sudhakar Dwivedi, and Sudhakar Chaturvedi. These are the accused that have been acquitted by the court. Now it remains to be seen that how the matter goes forward, because we have seen multiple theories initially by the NIA and by the ATS also when the investigations were in process. So we have to see, what is important to see that what will be the main conclusion, because if these are acquitted in this case, then actually who are the convicts, who are the people behind the entire conspiracy that killed 9 innocent people there in Malegaon in 2008. So these are the things that are still in question, and that should be now answered by the agency and by the state basically, that who are the actual case.
Okay, Yogesh, also tell us, how has the verdict been received by the Malegaon bomb blast victims?
See, they are obviously, it was a, ordeal for them, because they were not only physically tortured during the trial, as they have confessed, they have also, described their ordeal that they had to face during the trial, but also the way, Hinduism terrorism or saffron terrorism defined by a sector of people in some parties. So it was a very deep scar that they had to go through, a area kind of thing they had to face. So they are obviously welcoming. They have also been compensated by rupees to each of the accused as of now. So they are very happy. They are feeling a sense of respite, because after a long trial, finally they have been acquitted in this case. So they are obviously very happy. However, since the day one, the contradictions in the prosecution story, whether about the Ramchandra Sangra, brother Sivnarayan and Shyam Sahu, we have seen that how ATS accused them, but NIA had given them clean. At the same time, also Makoka was revoked. Makoka was produced to all these accused by the ATS, but later on NIA withdrawn Makoka. So multiple loopholes were there. That remains to be seen in the later part of the judgment, that exactly how court took cognizance of these things, and what was the basically legal reasoning that led to this judgment.
All right, request you, Yogesh, to stay with us as we bring in a bite coming from Mumbai. Let's listen in.
ऐसा है कि जो 17 साल से ये केस चल रहा था, इस केस में जो 17 साल पहले जो एविडेंस था, उसी तरह जो 2016 में NIA का चार्जशीट आया था, उसमें जो कोई भी मटेरियल था उसी के बेस पे आज कोर्ट ने फैसला सुनाया है। सारे एक्यूज बेल पे है और अभी तो केस खत्म हो गया है।
All right, Yogesh, now that the verdict is out, how does this verdict fit in to the narrative of Hindus being terrorists? This comes into special mention here because Amit Shah yesterday in the Rajya Sabha said that no Hindu can ever be a terrorist.
Yes, your question to me?
Yeah, so I said, how does this verdict fit in into the narrative of saffron terror?
See, this is in fact, you can see a turning point, a triggering point for those who believe that a theory can work, because we have not only in the trial but also in many cases. Because see, if you see other trials, like in 2611, we have seen how Ajmal Kasab was arrested, and later on we have seen that the entire story was basically the story was prepared. That attack should be shown as the attack carried out by saffron terrorists, and that is why a Kalawa, basically a red thread, that is basically won by Hindu. So he got that trade to to show that he belongs to Hinduism. But later on in the trial stage, it was basically completely exposed. And not only in this case, also if you see other cases like in in 2611 trial, the later part when David Headley was deposed to the Indian court, we're also seen how Ishrat Jahan theory of Ishrat Jahan was basically punctured by the court during the argument. So it is not the first time. Multiple times we had seen how the saffron theory has been coined by a section of people. Later on, it finds no air. So this is not the first time, but yes, definitely this was one of the longest trial in this case when it comes to a terrorism case in India. So this is one of the longest trials.
Oh.
So this is how it happened.
Okay, thank you very much, Yogesh Sheetal, reporting from Mumbai. Moving on now, the government of India on Wednesday issued a measured response to US President Donald Trump's tariff announcement. The government said it has taken note of the US President's statement and is studying its implications. According to a statement by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, India and the US have been engaged in negotiations on concluding a fair, balanced and mutually beneficial bilateral trade agreement over the last few months. They remain committed to that objective. The Indian government attaches the utmost importance to protecting and promoting the welfare of the country's farmers, entrepreneurs and MSMEs. It will take all steps necessary to secure India's national interest, as has been the case with other trade agreements, including the latest comprehensive economic trade agreement with the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, US President Donald Trump announced to impose a 25% tariff on imports from India starting on August 1st. He also said that the United States is still negotiating with India on a trade deal. Further, US President Donald Trump signed an executive order implementing an additional 40% tariff on Brazil, bringing the total tariff amount to 50%. The order said that the tariffs would go into effect 7 days after its signing on Wednesday. The order would apply an additional 40% tariff on the baseline 10% tariff already being levied by Donald Trump. But not all goods imported from Brazil would face the 40% tariff. Civil aircraft and parts, aluminium, tin, wood pulp, energy products and fertilizers are among the products being excluded. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva hit back at the move, saying that he would defend the sovereignty of the Brazilian people in the face of measures announced by the President of the United States. Further, the United States has agreed a trade deal with South Korea that will subject South Korean imports to a 15% tariff on imports as part of an agreement with the Asian trading partner. As part of the arrangement, South Korea will also invest $350 billion in the United States and purchase $100 billion of liquefied natural gas and other energy products. The announcement comes just a day before 1st August deadline for countries to reach agreements with the US or be hit with higher tariffs. South Korea had been facing a 25% levy if it had not struck a deal. South Korea's presidential office said that the country's trade agreement with the United States had pushed down tariffs on Korean automobiles to 15%. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung said that the deal would put his country on an equal or better footing compared with other countries. Meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said on Wednesday that tariff negotiations with the US President Donald Trump's administration have been constructive, but the talks may not conclude by an August 1st deadline.
Look, these are complex, they're comprehensive, they're constructive negotiations with the Americans are ongoing. It's possible that they may not conclude by the 1st of August. But we'll see. The team's there. We're working hard. Conversations today, myself.
Now, in a dramatic policy shift, Canada intends to recognize the Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September. Prime Minister Mark Carney stressed that the move was necessary to preserve hopes of a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He said that it has been a long-standing Canadian goal that was being eroded. It makes Canada the third country, following recent announcements by France and the UK, that could recognize the Palestinian state in September.
Prospects for a two-state solution have been steadily and gravely eroded, including by the pervasive threat of Hamas terrorism to Israel and its people, culminating in the heinous attack of October 7th, 2023, the terrorist organization Hamas's long-standing violent rejection of Israel's right to exist and its rejection of a two-state solution. A belief in a two-state solution, the inalienable rights of both peoples, and the fact that peace and security could only be achieved through it. That prospect, that possibility of a two-state solution is being eroded before our eyes.
Now, Israel, in its response, blasted Canada's announcement as part of a distorted campaign of international pressure. In a statement, Israeli Foreign Ministry said that this announcement represented a reward to terrorist faction Hamas, enhanced the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and a framework for the release of the remaining hostages. Further, Donald Trump warned Canada on Thursday for its stance on Palestine statehood. Trump, in a social media post, said that it would be difficult to make a trade deal with Canada after the country announced that it is backing Palestinian statehood. Canada and the US are working on negotiating a trade deal by August 1st, the date Trump is threatening to impose a 35% tariff on all Canadian goods not covered by the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Carney said on Wednesday that tariff negotiations have been constructive, but the talks may not conclude by the deadline. You're with us on DD India Live, still to come on this show. President of the Republic of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to visit India from 4th to 8th of August. US Federal Reserve keeps interest rates unchanged despite pressure from the Trump administration. And in Europe, a study finds that 2,300 people may have died across a dozen major cities during the extreme climate-fueled heat waves in the month of June.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Thank you for staying with us on DD India. I am Tanvi Thaneja. Updates next on the Parliament proceedings. Both houses were adjourned in early hours following the protest by opposition. On the 9th day of the monsoon session of Parliament, the lower house is scheduled to consider the readjustment of representation of scheduled tribes in the assembly constituencies of the State of Goa Bill 2024 and the Merchant Shipping Bill 2024. The upper house is set to consider the Carriage of Goods by Sea Bill 2025 for discussion and passage. At the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., will pay a state visit to India from 4th to 8th of August. He'll be accompanied by First Lady Madam Luis Araneta Marcos and a high-level delegation including several cabinet ministers, other dignitaries and senior officials, in addition to the business representatives. This would be the first visit of President Marcos to India since assumption of the office of President of the Philippines. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi and President Marcos are scheduled to hold bilateral discussions. President Marcos will also be meeting his Indian counterpart Draupadi Murmu. Both countries have since developed a strong partnership across a wide range of areas, including trade and investment, defense and security, maritime cooperation, agriculture, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and digital technologies. The two countries also engage closely at a regional level, including through India's comprehensive strategic partnership with ASEAN. India's relations with the Philippines are an integral pillar of its Act East policy, Mahasagar vision, and the vision of the Indo-Pacific. Panama's Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Carlos Arturo Hoyos, held delegation-level talks in Delhi with Secretary West Tanmay Lal in New Delhi. In a tweet, the Ministry of External Affairs said that both sides held useful consultations on matters of the UN, and India wishes Panama a productive presidency of the UN Security Council in August this year. Hoyos arrived in India on an official visit to promote investments, infrastructure projects and explore the creation of a pharmaceutical hub in Panama. Earlier, Carlos Arturo Hoyos also met Union Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margarita, and reviewed progress in bilateral ties. A heat wave scorching Europe had barely subsided in early July when scientists published estimates that 2,300 people may have died across a dozen major cities during the extreme climate-fueled heat waves. Scientists involved in the research said that the figure was supposed to grab some attention and sound a timely warning in the hope of avoiding more needless deaths. Heat can claim tens of thousands of lives during European summers, but it usually takes months, even years, to count the cost of this silent killer. The study, published just a week after temperatures peaked in Western Europe, unlike floods and fires, heat kills quietly with prolonged exposure, causing heat stroke, organ failure and death. The sick and the elderly are particularly vulnerable, but so are younger people exercising or toiling outdoors. In some business news now, the US Central Bank or Federal Reserve held interest rates steady on Wednesday, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell's comments after the decision undercut confidence that borrowing costs would begin to fall in September, possibly stoking the ire of President Donald Trump, who has demanded immediate and steep rate relief. Powell said that the Fed is focused on controlling inflation, not on government borrowing or home mortgage costs that Trump wants lowered. He further added that the risk of rising price pressures from the administration's trade and other policies remains too high for the central bank to begin loosening its grip until more information is collected.
Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective.
In sports news now, with an aim to level the series, the Shubman Gill-led India will take on England without their skipper Ben Stokes in the fifth and the final cricket test at Kennington Oval in London starting Thursday. Following a sensational match-saving performance at the Old Trafford, the Tendulkar-Anderson Trophy heads into a thrilling finale at the Oval where everything is still on the line.
The stage is set for the series finale as both India and England will battle it out in the fifth and final test at the Kennington Oval in London. It's a battle of honor for India as they trail the series 1-2, and the best they can do now is to level the 5-match series. India will be confident going into the final game after batters eventually did their job and bailed them out of trouble in the Manchester Test, but questions looms over their bowling unit that has looked quite ordinary for the side. For Shubman Gill's India, it is an opportunity to bounce back and draw level in what has been a highly competitive series. After a few indifferent results in Test cricket in the last 6 to 8 months, a 2-all result in England could be a turning point in the format for this Indian outfit. England, on the other hand, will go into the fifth test without their captain Ben Stokes, who is ruled out with a torn shoulder muscle. His absence is a major blow for England and for Stokes personally, who is the leading wicket taker in the series, scored his first test century in 2 years in Manchester and has been named player of the match in the last 2 tests. Jofra Archer and Bryden Cars are both rested after heavy workloads last week, while Liam Dawson is left out altogether. Oli Pop will lead for the fifth time in Test in Stokes' absence. Altogether, England have made 4 changes from the draw in Manchester, with Jacob Bethel, Gus Atkinson, Jamie Overton and Josh Tongue all coming into the side. After a save for the ages at Old Trafford, the Anderson Tendulkar Trophy now entered its climax at the Oval, with all to play for at the historic venue. For England, it is a chance for baseball validation on their own turf against one of the most formidable opponents in international cricket. Sports Desk, DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can also download our DD India mobile app for news and updates from India and the world. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.